Off the Clock with Carboni. This is going to be a weekly chat with somebody related to Charlotte sports in some way. It could be a current or former athlete or a coach, someone we bring in from the outside to give their expertise on what is going on with Charlotte sports. Whatever it may be, the idea is to peel back the curtain on our sports community, tell some really good stories, and have some really good fun. So our first guest is someone that's been great to me since I came to WCNC Charlotte 4 years ago. He's a great broadcaster, a great guy, and he's one of the greatest NFL safeties of his era, too. We're going to welcome in Eugene Robinson to the Off the Clock podcast. Hey, Eugene, your setup looks so much better than mine, man. I don't know how – I got to take some pointers from you.
Yeah, I got my little trophy case behind there and whatnot, so it kind of showcases that I played football a little bit vanity there, but there you go.
Hey, man, we're going to get into some of that. So, Eugene, we still have 30 seconds on the clock. So before we go off the clock, I got to ask you some rapid-fire questions.
Okay.
Quick questions, quick answers. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. Favorite NFL teammate?
Reggie White.
I knew it. Which receiver talked the most trash?
Chris Carter.
I was going to say Randy Moss, no?
Chris Carter.
Oh, man, CC. Okay. Most memorable guest you've interviewed on Charlotte today?
Ice Cube and also, I'm going with Ice Cube. Very good. And Kevin Hart.
All right. We got one more. Last place you ordered food in the city of Charlotte?
I was at the Wing King down in Carowinds Boulevard.
Very nice. Good stuff. What kind of flavor are you looking at?
And lemon pepper wings, baby. You know what time it is. And also that nice salad they have there. And I always put the blue cheese crumbles in with the salad and a balsamic vinaigrette. I'm just saying.
All right, blue cheese. Everybody's hating on blue cheese lately. I'm a blue chease guy. I can't do
Man,
that.
I don't hate. I love it.
All right, Eugene, let's get into, before we get into you and your journey, I love getting your perspective on whatever's going on in the NFL and with the Panthers. And, what a week we've had. First week of this training camp, unlike any other, with basically just 4 or 5 days of testing before guys can come in and do stuff. So just from your view as a former player, what have you thought of all this?
Who knew that the training staff would be the most important group of the team? And it really is, but you don't think of the training staff when you think of training camp. You think of the players coming in, getting into the locker room, getting into the dormitories, meeting together, congregating, doing footballs. But with COVID-19, it's changed the landscape. So now you're looking at, is there a COVID injury? You're looking at the things that you've never even thought about that could absolutely take you out of football. So the training staff becomes really paramount, from the proximity stuff that they have going on, from the contact tracing, everything that they're doing, social distancing, trying to keep players safe. This is a new normal, and it's unlike anything that we face or what these guys are facing right now. So this is very, very unusual, and I think it's organic. I think it's fluid, and we don't know what's going to happen. What if someone gets COVID-19? Major League Baseball just shut down a couple of games because of COVID.
Yeah, just the scenarios and possibilities are so enormous. So I always like to get your thoughts on everything going on because you went through it. It's like the first thing I can sit there and say, well, Eugene never went through that. But if you take yourself back into that mindset of being a player, what do you think, how do you think you would have handled that decision? It would have been a different decision in 1985 compared to when you were a player in 2000.
I think that's so, the player when I was in 1985, that young player trying to make the league, you're gung-ho. You're saying, look, I don't care about COVID. I'm getting in here. Let me do what I got to do to make this team. That's your sole focus. But then when you are an older, well-established player and you have a family, now you're thinking about, how does COVID affect me and my family? As a young person, I didn't think about that as much because I was so, trying to get into the National Football League, which I think a lot of those guys are thinking about right now. So they're all in. But for the older guy, I think this gives you just a little bit of pause of saying, hey, maybe I have a mother-in-law that lives with me that's older. I can't bring COVID home. So now those things you start to entertain, which you never would entertain during a training camp. So this is, like I said, this is new territory, Nick. And I would handle that differently. Yeah. Young guy, I'm in there. Older guy, I'm like, let me just get a little ease into it. Give me a little bit pause before I get into it.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see Jordan Mack, the undrafted free agent linebacker, who kind of took the opposite approach. And we wish him the best of luck. But, we could go into all the football stuff, and I know we will all training camp on WCNC Charlotte, but I just want to zoom in on one specific guy and get your thoughts on a guy who you were contemporaries with his uncle, Steve Atwater. Jeremy Chin, this young safety that the Panthers picked up, everybody's super excited about. How much have you gotten to dig in on him, and what do you know about him? And what do you know about his pedigree is pretty good too.
Well, the pedigree is absolutely great because Steve Atwater is one of the best safeties that contemporaneously that I played with. This cat is absolutely no joke. And when I think about Shin, I think of him like a Steve Atwater. I think of that same type of size, that power, that range, the ability to get over the top. That's what you think. Don't forget the Carolina Panthers had a chance to get Isaiah Simmons right before they picked Brown in the first round. And I look at Shin as being Isaiah Simmons. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. You got what you want. You stole a guy. You stole a guy who's absolutely a guy who has incredible range, a guy who will smack you in the mouth and legally punch you right in the teeth, and a guy who can get over the top. It is so important that you're able to get to the spots. That's why people like Isaiah Simmons. This young man can get to the spots, and having someone that he can go ahead and bounce ideas off of. Hey, what'd you do in cover 2? Are you reading the quarterback? Are you reading the tone until the shoulders? Hey, what do you do? He's talking to Uncle Steve Atwater, who in my opinion is a Hall of Famer. I'm saying that's a great wealth of knowledge that you got to go ahead and dive into and drink from a fire hose, if you will. So we got a beautiful safety in the league. And I tell you what, I look for this young man, pandemic aside, everything's back to normal. I look at this guy to be one of the safeties that we talk about for a long time to come here in the Carolina Panthers.
I mean, he's got Uncle Steve. What about Uncle Eugene? If he sees you around, he's got to be dipping into that wealth of knowledge too.
There is a lot of there is a whole bevy of knowledge that you can go ahead and tap into. Whether we're talking about what are we looking for with dashes and all the movement things as far as bootleg, dash, sprints, all those things, waggles, all those things mean something to the safety. Well, Steve Atwater knows those things. I know those things. Those are common occurrences. So you picking my brain about what position you need to be in cover 2, cover 4, cover 3, based on a waggle, a drift, a bootleg, a dash, all those things. Man, we got that. And I tell you, I will tell that young man immediately what I know so he can be successful on the field.
All right, so, he seems like a young, hungry player and coming out of Weaver High School. I want to talk to you about that because we've had some side conversations about that. I'm from Connecticut. You're from Hartford. That is a legendary high school athletics-wise with football programs, track and field programs. So what was your experience like there? And then you go to Colgate. So what was the recruiting experience like for you?
So here it is. This is very different because I was a small kid. My freshman year, I weighed 90 pounds. So I never got on the field until my junior year when I weighed a whopping 132 pounds. And
I bet you were still laying it to those Central Connecticut wide receivers, though.
I know it, but I was a wrestler, so I always had that tenacity and that ferocity that you need to play football. I've always had that, and I could actually hit. I could catch the ball, but I was just too small to have a shot. So I didn't get that shot until my junior year. One of our coaches, Brian White, he played with the Buffalo Bills. He saw me study. He saw how well I moved. He said, hey, I want to make this guy a free safety. That was the right choice, but that was the beginning of my career, my junior year. And then when I got to a whopping 147 pounds, 150, I thought I was the biggest guy. I had no idea I was small. I just thought I was big because I put on more weight, and then I just took off. I go to Colgate University on an academic scholarship. I wasn't recruited. I asked the coach, can I come up for football at 150 pounds? They looked at me. They sized me up. They go, I'm not sure, not really sure. About a week later, I was in the gym at Colgate in a summer program playing catch with the football, and one of the coaches saw me and said, hey, you saw that young black guy that was in there? He's out there playing catch. They came out, and I knew that was my opportunity to go ahead and showcase what I could do. I kind of went on the dog and pony show, and then they said, yeah, you can come out. And I was one of the only guys that year out of all those freshmen, the 27 freshmen that were recruited, I was the only guy that was a walk-on to make that football team. Me, Steve Calabria, another guy named Stacy Hall. 3 guys out of that freshman class made that varsity team, and I was one.
Just amazing tenacity. So you have a great career at Colgate, and then I think it's 1985.
Yes.
You enter the league as an undrafted free agent, but give me a sense of what the league was like at that time, because I think the USFL was kind of making a buzz at that time too.
Yeah, I got picked up in the USFL as the territorial draft, and so I went down there it happens in January. I went down there in January, and we're off the month of January in college. Went down in January just to practice. After I practiced for 3 days, I said to myself, I know I can play professional football. I'm going back to school to finish up my year. And I finished up. I get picked up as a free agent in 1985. And don't forget, no practice squad at all. You got to make the team. You got to make that 53-man roster. That's it. You got to make the team. They're only taking 10 defensive backs. They're not keeping 11. They're not keeping 12. 10. And I was one guy. They had drafted a guy in the 3rd round named Otto Brown, another guy named Chip Bowers in the 12th round. One was a safety, one was a corner. I could do both their jobs. And during cut day, I can remember this so vividly. We're walking. Those 2 guys were about 20 meters ahead of me. They get to the front door. I hear one of the guys whisper something to him. They go around the side. I get to this guy who has the front door, and I say, hey, thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I'm expecting to get cut. He said, no, Robinson, come on in. You made the team.
I mean, that just sets everything up for the next 15 years, at least in the league, and then probably beyond that. So, okay, so you become this force in Seattle's defense. For many years, your tackles record wasn't even broken until last year. So I'm not sure a lot of people around here know. So what led you to becoming that player after literally barely getting in the door?
Dave Brown, a guy who I played with, he kind of mentored me and spiritually, and he mentored me on the field. He was one of the biggest influences of my life. He passed away. Dave Brown had 62 interceptions before he passed away. He was one of the most prolific corners that we've had, and I would go to his house every Wednesday and Thursday and put in a VHS film, the 6-hour film, VHS tape, put that in, and we would break down film. We would break down film for hours, and then after we finished breaking down film, he'd say, okay, Rook, what do we got? Give me first down, give me second down, give me 3rd and 6, give me 36 minus, give me 37 plus. He would go through this litany of things and I would go calling out, boom, boom, boom. I had no idea what was happening, the education process that was happening, so that when we were at a football game and I'm on the bench because I do special teams and some nickel, I would sit there and I would call out the plays that the team was running based on what I saw on the film. And guys would say on the bench, how do you know? I'm like, man, I spent so much time with Dave Brown. I know everything. And then my own attitude and what God has put in me, knowing that, hey, I want to be able to showcase what I do. If I have a hint of what the play's going, I'm going to get there and trust what I've studied, trust what I studied, and get there and make the play. And I started doing that. And when I did it one time, it was contagious. And I said, I can do this all the time. I can make big hits. I get interceptions. I can follow the likes of Ken Easley, Ronnie Lott, Deron Cherry. And I wanted to do that. And I wanted to be just as good as those guys. And so I did.
Knowledge is power in the NFL. Eugene Robinson certainly knows that. Didn't you ruffle Steve Largent's feathers once?
Oh, yeah. Steve Largent.
Tell me that story.
This was in practice. So this was in practice. I'm a rookie, freshman. I'm a rookie. And the rookies are in camp now, and the veterans will come to camp a little bit later. But Steve Largent would always come to camp with the rookies to get some extra work in, and we'd just jump into practice. So we were doing cover 2 Yale. It's cover 2 man under, basically. Everybody kind of knows that. And then I was getting ready to do it. I was the defensive back, and then the coordinator said, hey, Steve Largent, can you run these for these receivers, because these receivers don't know how to run this play. So now I'm pitted against Steve Largent, and then we're in the cover 2. He comes off the line of scrimmage. Man, I can just see it right now. Boom, he comes off, he comes inside. Boom, I hit him with the right hand, right to the shot, to the chest. He tries to go to the left. Boom, I hit him with the left-hand side. And then as I'm moving with him, I travel underneath him as the technique desires to travel underneath him. I'm underneath him inside about 1.5 yards out. He breaks this beautiful dig route about 18 yards down the field. I cut underneath this dig. The ball is in the air. I dive out. I catch the ball. I hit the ground. The ball hits the ground. I don't retain the interception. Steve Largent gets up, and he says, who is that guy right there? And every time during that rookie training camp, he would say to me, I want Eugene Robinson to cover me. I want him. And then he would continue to beat my head in. I cut my teeth because after that, he never let me beat him after that.
Yeah, I mean, sticking a Hall of Fame receiver in practice is one thing as a rookie, but a future U.S. congressman at that too.
Yes.
One more thing about your days in Seattle. I got to get the story on this saxophone trading card. You play? Like, how did this come about? This is like so 90s too.
Man, I started picking up the saxophone in 1986, and I would go to training camp, and when practice was, when we had sometimes three practices, when in between practices, I would run home, run back to the dormitory, get in there, and start playing my saxophone. And the dudes would go crazy. Dave, stop playing that dang saxophone. One day they threw a whole bunch of pine cones. My window was open. They threw a whole bunch of pine cones. I came in the room, dude. There was pine cones like everywhere. They threw a whole bunch of pine cones. I started that. I would give them space, but it became a love of mine, and I started playing saxophone. And as a matter of fact, I can pay it to you and show you my saxophones. They're sitting over there right in the corner.
Let's do it. Go for it. Yeah, let's see this.
Hold on right quick. Yeah. So I keep my saxophones like right in handy, no doubt.
Let's hear it.
There you go.
Unbelievable, man. That's amazing. That's amazing. I love it. So then you go to – I always figured you signed a free agent deal to go to Green Bay, but you got traded, right?
I got traded for Matt LaBounty in 1996, before that 96 season. We had a new coach, Dennis Erickson, that came in. He was really familiar with I just lost train of thought, the young man who played for the Cincinnati Bengals, Darryl, I forget Darryl's last name. That was his safety in college, and so he takes him, and he's going to make him the free safety, and then I become expendable, and I get traded to Green Bay, the best trade that ever happened. Thank you very, very much. I'm in the likes of Reggie White, Brett Favre, Mark Chabora. We had a crew. We had a team. And I had no idea that I was one of the missing cogs on defense because I've always gotten interceptions. I've always studied to get interceptions. I'm paired with Leroy Butler. Leroy Butler was the sack master. This dude was uncanny but undisciplined and needed another guy to go ahead and run some of the stuff that, when he would freelance, I would come in there and run those things that he would freelance and then let him do what he does. And this was a match made on earth. I tell you what, we played extremely well together, that entire team. One of the best trades. I ended up going to 2 Super Bowls with him and winning the Super Bowl in 1996 against the Patriots, and that was Drew Bledsoe at the time as being the quarterback.
Yeah, I remember. I told you made me cry. I was 11 years old, big Pats fan, big blood. I had his jersey and everything, but you ended that. That was a great team. I just want to talk about you and Reggie for a second, because was that the first time you had kind of gotten close to him, and how did he kind of affect your life from that point forward?
So Reggie White, he and I knew each other anyway, just from some of the Christian things that we were doing in the league, and we would cross paths. And Reggie White had called me up in 1996, earlier before that year, and asked me if I wanted to get traded to Green Bay. I'm like, Reggie, what are you talking about getting traded to Green Bay? You need to come to Green Bay. And so he was working behind the scenes trying to get me to Green Bay. I come to Green Bay. He becomes my roommate. And then he's always said that we wanted to do ministry together. And I ended up doing ministry on the team with them. And then, I don't know if you remember, but the churches that burned down during that time,
yeah.
Reggie was collecting money. I was helping Reggie collect money from guys to go ahead and help the church effort that was in the South when churches were burning down. So we became really good friends. And then we were roommates too. And so our relationship just grew. It just grew leaps and bounds. And we were the 2 oldest guys on the team. And because we were the 2 oldest guys on the team, 2 were Christians, it was just really a good match for us. And so he really helped my career and helped me get acclimated into Green Bay and helped me establish some clout with Green Bay, because most of those guys didn't know me. Reggie endorsed me. Now they know me.
Man, yeah, just a great guy and great player and great human. Tell me about Brett Favre. What was he like as a teammate? You got to have a good internet safe Brett Favre story for me.
Man, look, Brett Favre, I love him. That is my guy. Brett Favre added so much structure, so much levity to that team, so much preparation that most people don't even know about. But Brett Favre is our shower bandit. People told me, they said, hey, Gene, Brett Favre's a shower bandit, man. So if you in there minding your business, reading the paper, you kind of get the picture. He said, leave the door open because Brett Favre hit you with a bucket of cold Whirlpool water. I'm like, man, I'm not leaving the door open, doing my business, reading my paper. So one day after practice, I'm doing my business, reading my paper. Man, I got hit with a bucket of cold 45, 50-degree water. Man, that's some cold water. I jumped out of the stall. And so as I jump out of the stall, I see this white butt turn the corner. So I run, and I turn the corner.
Evidence.
Yeah, and so then I see this other white butt turn the corner, and another corner, and I turn the corner, right? And then I get in the locker room. There's no one in the locker room. Brett Favre is stuck up in his locker, somebody else's locker, with a towel wrapped around him, said, "It wasn't me, Gene. It wasn't me."
That's a cover-up.
I said, "Brett, I don't know how long it's going to take me, but I'm getting you back." I never really got him back.
There's still time. All right, let's chat. You end up in Charlotte, I think, for one season, and that story is fascinating itself. So how do you not only end up in Charlotte for that last year, I believe 2000, and now you've just become so ingrained in our community since? I mean, did you ever see that coming when you got here?
Never saw that coming. I was moving to Charlotte. Reggie White was also kind of getting me to come to Charlotte. My wife and I, we wanted to get back on the East Coast. So we picked Charlotte. We go to Charlotte because of actually Reggie White, but we was thinking about it. We go to Charlotte, and then one of the kids broke his hip. Deion Grant broke his hip, and I happened to be in the area. They called me up and say, "Hey, Gene, can you come out and do a physical?" I hadn't worked out at all, hadn't been doing that much stuff. I mean, I've been working out, but not to that same intensity. I go down to Wofford. I get picked up by Mr. Richardson. We're sitting there. I didn't know who he was. I had no idea who he was. And so he takes me on the field, and I get a tryout. And I saw Reggie and John Casey and Doug Evans, all the guys that I played football with was coming towards me to say hello. I thought they wanted to say hello to Mr. Richardson. And I said, "Oh, no, I was talking to the owner. My goodness, what did I say? Hope I did everything right, correctly." Anyway, I work out for them, and then I think they signed off on me to fit. And so the next day, I think that Friday, that was on a Tuesday or a Monday, that Friday I was in the game that night, doing a preseason game. It didn't take me that long to understand that defense football is academic. Yeah. I know the academics of football, and I was starting in a preseason game that Friday night.
Unbelievable, man. All right, wrapping it up, Eugene. You bring so much passion and energy to everything you do. I'd like to get some of that. And where does that come from for you? I mean, whether it was your career, trying to make the league, trying to stay in the league, to broadcasting now for about 20 years, you haven't really lost any of that edge.
No, I can't take credit for it. God has made me one of these people that you love life, you love people. I've always had passion about things that I was doing, whether I was doing computer science, whether I was playing saxophone, whether I was engaged in conversation, whether I was helping out, doing something that was philanthropic. It didn't matter. I would kind of throw myself into that. That's just the person I am. God made me that personality. And then the other thing is that I love people, man. People, I get energy from people. I get energy the fact that we have a thing. I know you. I know who Carboni, Carboni is. I know who he is. Yeah, man, we're going to have a good conversation. I get excited about those things because I get excited about being around people because I think people are engaging. I think people are so much fun. I think people are so interesting. So this really fulfills a need for me. I think I'm much more the recipient than you are in this regard right now because I'm getting a lot of energy from this interview. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, man. I appreciate you helping us get the ball rolling on Off the Clock and hanging out with me here. And, it's a treat to have you on WCNC Charlotte. Hopefully we can actually interact in person again soon, although that setup looks strong there. What's the best piece you got back there?
So I got, if I pan up to the very, very top, let me see if I can pan up to the top. You see the helmets?
Yep.
All the helmets I got. Dan Marino's, Joe Montana's helmet, John Elway's helmet, Dan Faust's helmet. I collect quarterbacks' helmets of people I got interceptions from. The only one I never got an interception from was Joe Montana. But I have helmets. I got Warren Moon's helmet. I got helmets of quarterbacks that I keep. I have Brett Favre's helmet up there. And it's I got an interception that gets him in the Pro Bowl. So that
amazing. Hey, Eugene, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.